everyone, I'm Lawrence. This week on Pride, I want to talk to you about the topic of labels. Now, as human beings, we love labels. They help for us to define who we are, as well as which tribe we tend to belong to. When people meet you for the first time and ask you to tell a little bit about yourself, what we tend to turn to more often than not are the labels that we have attributed about ourselves to describe who we are, whether it be our name, our job, our age, even our sexual preference. These are all labels that we use to explain who we are. And within the LGBT community, we tend to love labels, or there's a love-hate relationship, I think, that tends to go on with them. There could be fierce debate and discussion about the use of the word gay versus queer. And even within the community, you have men who describe themselves as bears or twinks or otters or daddies or leather. You know what? It's used to both define who you are and in some cases celebrate who you are as well. But within that, there's also a bit of a side edge too. I certainly know that within the bisexual community, there are people out there who feel that bisexuals sit on the fence, who are in denial. And this all comes back to their own paradigm of reality. Perhaps they find bisexuality a little bit frightening. I don't know. But there can tend to be this judgment that goes on with it because they simply don't understand how bisexuality works. And I'm beginning to notice that more and more nowadays when it comes to gender roles as well, particularly people who are non binary. I was recently invited into a Facebook group and it was aimed at the gay community. And the first topic was around the recent Mardi Gras broadcast. And someone had posed a question about why it was that people were presenting who they were and then their pronouns of he, him, she, her. And I don't know if the question was a genuine one or if it was just one of disdain, but it was raised. And what I found also was that there was a lot of negativity back towards non binary. People that did try to express that they were non binary kind of left the group pretty much straight away because they could tell that they weren't welcome there. And it made me wonder if the gay community was perhaps in some ways prejudiced against people that were of non binary. This is a sweeping generalization, but if I was to take a sample from that group, it did make me wonder if perhaps people who are perhaps slightly older or around my age demographic struggle with this because, quite simply, in our experience, our self has always been a singular. But nowadays, there are people who are becoming more aware and are more open to that idea that they are more than just male or female. We know that. We've seen transgender people now for decades who have been born one sex but are clearly another. And you can tell that by looking at them, that they simply exude that opposite gender. And so I find it interesting why it is that people who identify as non binary are copying so much flack from certain parts of the community. Is it simply because we're unable to get our head around this whole idea of being both male and female, or sometimes neither? And in many ways, how does it really impact on us as individuals? I tend to think of my non binary friends, and I want to publicly apologize for not having a better understanding of it yet. I'm still learning about this and understanding it myself. And, I invite others to be equally curious and genuine in their curiosity so that we can embrace these people within our community so that they can feel that they are accepted and understood. Now, for me, the closest thing that I can say to experiencing that was when I did drag once. And, that feeling of another part of me coming forward that I wasn't aware of previously, it definitely felt like I was being another person for the night. And you could argue that's role playing or anything like that. Completely get that. But for me, it was very much a notable experience. And, this is probably the closest that I've had in time to understanding that duality that might exist within us. But I'd be really curious for people who are non binary to share with us a better understanding about what it is so that any of this prejudice that exists within the community can be put to bed so that we can make sure that we treat everyone within our community with the respect and the love and the understanding that they deserve. You wouldn't go calling your transgender friend their previous name. And you certainly wouldn't tolerate it yourself if you had someone aggressively calling you a fag or a homo. Labels are important in defining us, and we need to be able to show that respect to our non-binary community so that they can feel accepted too. Thanks for watching. See you next time.